My name is Katherine. I met my husband, John, back when he was running a Chinese restaurant, and I was a regular there. After a few months of frequenting the place, we somehow ended up dating. Eventually, I quit my office job to move in with him and help out at the restaurant. I enjoyed interacting with customers, and after putting in some effort, the regulars would often say, "Katherine, you're like the poster girl of this place." I wasn't exactly poster girl age, but hey, I took it as a compliment. John and I had a great relationship, and I was aware that he relied on me.
Since you started working here, the turnover and the reputation of the place have been fantastic. It's been a huge help.
He said.
Will you marry me and help me run this place together in the future?
When he proposed, I was over the moon. I had every intention of supporting John's Chinese restaurant indefinitely, and I thought he felt the same. So, you can imagine, I never expected him to take back his proposal.
Actually, I can't marry someone like you.
He said out of the blue. What? One day, as soon as I got home on my day off, that's what he told me. Before opening the restaurant, John was just a regular office worker. He had a girlfriend at that time, but when he told her he was starting a business, she dumped him on the spot. However, after hearing about the restaurant's success, she came back wanting to rekindle their relationship.
She wants to get back together, so I guess I don't need you anymore.
He said with a laugh. I had to move out of the place we were living together and ended up losing my fiancé and my job all at once. My mental state was on the brink of collapse, and all I could do was nod in agreement to what John said.
As for the compensation, we're about to start preparing for a wedding, and it's going to cost a lot.
He said.
I'll pay you back once that's all settled. You don't need the money right away, do you?
Looking back, I think I was a fool to agree to that. At that time, money seemed irrelevant. I just wanted my hope for living back. With the little money I had, I moved into a small apartment and started living alone. I managed to find a new job quickly, but I was still hung up on John. I would remember the word he called me and cry night after night. Now that I think about it, it was such a waste of time to dwell on the insults from a guy like that. During that moping period, I got a call from an unknown number at home, and to my surprise, it was about receiving a large inheritance from my father. I was raised by a single mother and knew nothing about my father, but apparently, his will stated,
Leave everything to Katherine.
maybe it was his way of atoning for abandoning his child. Since I had no other relatives, I was the sole heir. Suddenly coming into a lot of money, I had almost no use for it at the time. It all felt so empty, so I would splurge on binge eating after work. One night, after work, I ordered a ton of takeout from my favorite spot and went to a secluded park. It had the perfect table and chairs for eating, and at night, there were hardly any people around, perfect for my binge eating. I knew I should have just eaten at home, but it felt suffocating. Plus, it reminded me of the times I lived with John. So there I was, chowing down, when a visitor showed up. He was wearing a flimsy shirt and jeans that looked about to tear at the knees. He was so skinny you could almost see his bones, and he had this about to collapse vibe. His eyes were vacant, but I could tell he was drawn by the smell of the food. I should have been wary, but I couldn't just ignore him. Hey, would you like to join me? I found myself asking. I ordered too much, and I could use some help with it. The man shook his head no. But when I brought out a hot hamburger, he started wolfing it down. He looked like he was choking, so I guided him to a seat and gave him some tea from my water bottle. Delicious. So good, he said that between tears. Watching him eat, I felt full without even eating much myself. So I let him eat as much of the food as I had barely touched. After he calmed down, he thanked me sincerely. Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I might have been dead here by tomorrow. It was really just a coincidence that I had extra food. I lied, thinking he'd be put off if I said I could eat it all myself. If there were more women like you, I could repay my debts in no time, he said. Let's call this guy Charlie. Charlie briefly shared how he ended up in this situation.
Believe it or not, I used to have a pretty good life before all this. I graduated from a decent college and got a job at a fairly large company. I was getting along well with a woman I met during my successful days, and we even promised to marry, but she ended up scamming me out of a lot of money and I lost everything.
She kept finding reasons to make him pay large sums of money, and by the time Charlie was broke, she had cut off all contact and disappeared. From there, things went downhill at work. He couldn't pay his rent, and he ended up homeless. Hearing his story, I saw some of my own experiences in it. So I thought, what can I do to help? And decided to take Charlie to a hotel. There, he could order room service whenever he wanted and take as many baths as he liked. If he wanted to exercise, there was a gym, and the sauna was unlimited too. I decided to let him stay there for a month. A week or so wouldn't be enough to restore his worn-out body, right? You need enough physical strength to even start looking for a job. I thought it would be good if he could prepare to re-enter society. Charlie was hesitant, but I left him in the care of the hotel staff and just paid the bill before going home. The hotel was close to my house, and I had used it a few times for its room service. This staff there are all kind and do a thorough job cleaning and serving, so it's a place I can trust. But now, I'm reflecting on whether I was too trusting to do all this for a homeless man I barely knew. Still, I don't regret what I did for Charlie. I would have been fine if it had ended there. But Charlie asked the hotel staff to call me.
I really want to meet you again to say thank you.
He said that, and wanting to see if he had really recovered in a month, I agreed to have lunch with him. When we met, I was surprised. Charlie had changed so much. He looked like a completely different person. He was still slim, but he looked healthier than before, not just skin and bones. He was wearing clothes provided by the hotel staff, fitting his slim figure perfectly. There was no bad smell like the first time we met, and his hair was styled up so you could see his face, making him look like a fresh, handsome young man. Turns out he was handsome after all, I thought, a bit rudely, as I talked with Charlie again. Since Charlie had shared his story with me before, this time I told him about my experiences with John. Then, for some reason, Charlie started crying, as if he felt my pain as his own.
Such a kind person like you, Katherine, didn't deserve such terrible treatment. If I could, I'd punch him for you. If I were in his place, I would never let you suffer like that.
Wow. Honestly, even though he's clearly younger, I was a bit taken aback. I think this guy might just have a natural charm, I thought with a laugh. As we were talking, Charlie suddenly said,
I want to repay you.
I initially refused, but eventually his persistence won over, and I agreed to give him a job. Since he couldn't immediately return to society, and he still had neither a job nor a home, I wanted to help him with that. So, I decided to let him take care of my housework. I rented a room nearby for him as necessary expenses, paid the initial costs myself, and then let him work and live off the salary he earned from me. Charlie was a bit awkward with the housework at first, but he learned quickly and did everything very carefully, so my house was always spotless, and he quickly learned my favorite flavors and dishes. He would cook whatever I requested right away, and having someone cook for me again after so long, I stopped binge eating outside completely. Looking back, I wonder how I could have eaten so much before. Having someone at home who cooks warm meals for you when you return from work every night is much more fulfilling than having a lot of money. And because eating alone is lonely, I had him join me for meals. Actually, after a few months of this arrangement, Charlie suddenly shared his feelings.
It's not because I owe you for saving me, or because I'm employed by you, but being with you, I've fallen in love. Please consider dating me with marriage in mind.
It was so sincere that yes was the only option I had. Charlie and I had both been through a lot before we met, but I thought, this might be the peak of my life. Thanks to him, I was freed from the curse of John's words, and I could finally smile properly and look at myself in the mirror to put on makeup. Years later, we went to a home builder's company to build our new house. There, we had an unbelievable reunion. Meeting here of all places, I could only curse fate.
Why is Katherine here?
I never intended to see him again, but the salesperson in front of us was unmistakably John. God, you're cruel, I thought. We didn't have to meet at a time like this. Why? Because we want to build a house, and that's what this place is for, right? When I said that, John looked closely at Charlie next to me.
Huh, surprising. She's too good for you, isn't she?
He said it so casually, and Charlie looked like he wanted to say something, but I just wanted to end the conversation quickly and leave. I could have asked for a different agent, but I didn't want to seem like I was running away. I haven't done anything bad enough to run away from John. John should be the one wanting to run away from me, but he was still as rude as ever.
Wait, you're planning to build a house this big?
Yup, that's the plan.
You can't afford that, give it up. Don't try to show off, haha. You just came here because you knew I worked here, right? Just to tease me. You didn't bring this guy as your boyfriend, did you? He's just here for show, right? You're going too far just because you want to see me again, haha.
I have to admit, I kind of wish I could have just a little bit of his self-confidence. Turns out, Charlie had been recording John's absurd comments without me knowing, and he reached his limit before I did. Charlie took the recording to the reception and got our agent changed.
Does your company train its employees to insult clients if they happen to know them? This is outrageous. Please change our representative immediately.
After hearing the recording and the story from Charlie, someone from the company's upper management immediately demoted John. Charlie is usually too sincere and got scammed by his ex-girlfriend, but he's on an elite path and very calm. He didn't get riled up easily and did exactly what John would hate the most, calming down the bad atmosphere. I think it was a really good call too. The company, wanting to make amends for causing trouble, assigned us a new agent who was serious about listening to us. After taking in our plans and ideals, this guy, as a professional, gave us some solid advice. Thanks to him, the conversation went smoothly, and I ended up thinking, this company is better than I thought. Eventually, we decided to go with this company, and while discussing with our new agent on another day, he mentioned,
by the way, John got fired.
Apparently, he had been performing poorly for a while and had received complaints about his customer service attitude from time to time. The clear evidence Charlie brought of his behavior towards a client was the last straw that sealed his dismissal.
You wouldn't want someone who judges people by their appearance to help build a house, right?
Charlie said that, and the sales agent just chuckled.
Katherine, you're John's ex-girlfriend, right? That guy is crazy. He's got his sights set on you.
The sales agent told us what John had been saying behind the scenes.
Katherine got a bit thinner and cuter, so she didn't have to bring some handsome guy along. No, that guy is probably her husband. If I confess to her gang, Katherine will definitely fall for me. If we get back together, we won't need a house, so she'll stop being your client soon.
He also told us about the woman John got back together with and the Chinese restaurant.
That guy, he ran his own restaurant into the ground. Rumor has it that after the woman who supported the place left, many customers stopped coming, and the girlfriend he was with at the time dumped him too.
When he closed the restaurant, it was already in the red, and he had a lot of debt. So he went back to a sales job he had quit before, but with only his pride high and no performance. Of course, his salary didn't increase, and his debt didn't decrease at all. I didn't care what John was up to, but Charlie was quite wary.
Guys who misunderstand things that quickly are a hassle. He's completely convinced that you still like him, Katherine.
I'm not interested in John at all. So nothing will happen.
I trust you, Katherine, but if he finds out what you're doing now, he might cling to you for money. Don't sympathize with such a guy, no matter how kind-hearted you are.
Charlie seemed convinced that I would sympathize with John and pay off his debts, so I got quite a strong talking to. There's no place left for such a man in my life. But just as Charlie predicted, When I was alone in the office, John barged in.
Katherine, I had no idea you were running a company.
Actually, after dating Charlie for a while, we started a housekeeping service together. We worked hard and steadily, and our clientele grew, and now we have enough margin to employ 3 people besides me and Charlie. I don't know where he heard about it, but John found out and came all the way to our small office.
If you're running a company, you won't have time to build a house, right? You came just to see me, didn't you? Did you bring that young, handsome employee along just to show off?
John kept twisting the story to suit himself, grinning all the while. What goes on in that guy's head? Does he really think he's the most attractive man in the world? Is that all you wanted to say?
Huh?
Then it's my turn. I have something I want to say to you too. John misunderstood something and got all excited at my words.
A reconciliation talk, right? Let's work hard together to run this company.
You promised to pay me alimony, remember?
Huh?
Man, it was hard to keep from laughing at his stunned face in that moment.
No. When are you even talking about? That's long over, isn't it?
The statute of limitations is 5 years, and it's only been 4, so it's still valid. Saying that, I showed him the promissory note, and John's smirking attitude changed instantly.
You're planning to get back together with me, right?
No. Who said anything like that?
Because you still love me, right? Just because I dumped you once. Stop with the nasty harassment.
It's not like that. I'm just exercising my rights. You have a duty to pay because you broke off the engagement for no good reason. I was explaining calmly, but instead of signing, John started to lose his temper.
I dated you, even though you're a mess, and I let you work, and this is how you treat me? Are you kidding me? Pay off my debts quickly. Repay your debt to me.
Who are you to say that? I almost blurted out. But he was so aggressive that I was about to call the police and have him removed when Charlie came back just in time.
Why are you even here?
He rushed over to help, but seeing Charlie's face, John got even more infuriated.
What are you? Just an employee. Stay out of this. We were engaged, so stay out of it, stranger.
What are you talking about, man? I'm the one married to Katherine.
Huh?
Didn't you see the ring on the ring finger? We've been wearing them all along. Until now, we were living together in my small apartment, so before having kids, we decided, let's build a big house together.
So, you're really married? What about getting back together with me? What about my debts?
I don't know. That's your debt, not mine.
I don't care about your situation, but you need to sign this promissory note. You dumped Katherine suddenly back then, so now it's come back to bite you. It's all your own doing. What? Don't act like you know everything. Don't talk like you know.
John kept yelling loudly after that. So eventually, I called the police and had him removed.
Hey, I'm going to be Katherine's husband. Let go of me.
His arms were firmly grasped by the police officers, and he was sucked into the patrol car. Afterward, through a lawyer, we properly claimed $20,000 in damages. I was hesitant to claim damages at first, but Charlie encouraged me.
Regardless of the other party's circumstances, they should be held accountable. It's also to make them think it's better not to do bad things anymore.
Honestly, I don't care what happens to John, but I did think he should be responsible for his actions. Thanks to Charlie, we went through a lawyer for the dealings, so I don't have to talk to John directly anymore, and we have restraining order, so he can't come near. This time, I finally cut ties with John, and I feel relieved. Now, I'm busy with work and the new house, so I don't have time to think about John.